Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and friends and neighbors, and people out there on YouTube and Facebook land. Tonight, I wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you as a taxpayer and as a former 35-year employee with the Ministry of Transportation and Highways. And we're going to focus a little bit about winter maintenance. You might say, well, it's not winter yet, but if we don't start talking about it now and don't have a firm handle on what we're going to do when we find out things are not happening the way they used to, there has to be a plan made as to what approach that we should take. And basically what I'm saying is that removing snow off the highway is no different than removing it off your driveway. So if you got a driveway that's a couple 100 feet long and you get a couple inches of snow on there, if you don't brush it off, sweep it off, or shovel it off, and do it before the snow gets compacted, you're going to wind up with glare ice, black ice on your road. Now, what's happening now, we've seen a lot of it happen last winter, and it's the old system we had going was the highways engineer would get a hold of all the district managers about the first week of October, and they would be told, we want to run 3 shifts this winter. We're going to have 3 shifts of snow plowing and sand application to make sure that the roads are safe for traveling people. And the first thing that the manager would do is turn around and say, well, we don't have enough manpower. And the Merle Sproul at the time would say, well, I'm the guy who gives you the money, and I'm telling you what I expect. So I don't want any complaints about slippery roads and trucks spun out and vehicles upside down and people being killed on the highway system, because I'm responsible for that. And Merle took his responsibility very, very seriously, and he told the managers, you will hire enough people to operate the equipment from the 1st of October to the end of March, so we can plow roads 3 shifts as required and apply sand and salt, depending on the road conditions and also the weather conditions. Now, there's a little bit of change in technology now. The people that are selling the liquid de-icers now have got to most of the areas and told the guys, look, if you buy this liquid de-icer and put it on the road, everything's going to be fine, and you won't have to buy sand anymore, and it'll be a lot cheaper, and it'll save the taxpayers a lot of money, and it's going to be so much better. Now, there are some conditions where liquid de-icer will work, but you have to be very, very, very careful in putting it on. Now, I'm going to give you an example. Now, if you've got a very hilly area, like in the Rossland area, or maybe on the Selma Crescent, where you've got steep hill grades. Now, if you have a snowstorm that comes up during the afternoon shift, maybe, or morning shift, and it starts snowing heavily, and you've got a lot of traffic, and if you don't have enough plow passes, now a plow pass is where a front plow goes by or an underbody plow, and it makes a sweep of the highway and sweeps the snow off. Now, if you don't have enough plow passes while it's snowing, the ice forms, the snow compacts, and pretty soon you get this compact surface, maybe up to 2 or 3 inches deep on the road, and it's compact ice. And once it becomes compact, it's very hard to get off. You have to have a grader with really sharp blades, and the grader is a slow-moving piece of equipment. Or you can put on liquid de-icer. The disadvantage about the liquid de-icer is when the temperature drops, like when normal water freezes, we know when that freezes, it becomes ice. That's apparent when you're driving and you see ice. And if it's raining and the temperature is dropping, you can expect that there's going to be ice on the highway. A lot of the newer vehicles now have a thermometer on the dash, and you can see what the temperatures are. And so you can watch. And if you're driving along and there's water on the road, and you're okay as long as the temperature doesn't drop. But as soon as the temperature starts dropping and it becomes ice, then you got glare ice. And if you don't have any traction restorer on, sand is a grit that you need on top of ice to provide traction for the vehicles as they go by. And the contract is poorly written. Now, they talk about removing snow, removing ice, and stuff like that, and using of liquid deicers and traction restorer. Well, what can really happen, and it has been happening, and we've seen it in trail area where they've had a lot of accidents, and trucks spun out on the hill in the Montrose area, sideways, people in the ditch, and it's all because there's not enough people there to do the work. There's not enough equipment. You have to have enough equipment, and you have to have enough trained people to operate it as well. And then, pending the weather condition, you have to have enough trips, enough plow passes. So if it's a snowy day, you need more plow passes. So you have to gear it up so that if you've got a hilly area, you've got to have 2 or 3 trucks there out there plowing steadily. Otherwise, this compact ice is going to start forming, and you've got this thick ice on the road. And once it's on the road, it's very hard to deal with. So the trick is to keep that stuff off the road by frequent plow passes. Now, in some cases, they're resorting to the use of the liquid deicer, but the disadvantage of that is, let's say that you've got an afternoon shift on, and all of a sudden it's not too bad, and then all of a sudden it starts snowing, and you start getting an inch or two an hour, and you got a heavy traffic situation. That ice, that snow compacts on the road surface and becomes glare ice. And if you don't have any traction restorer there, pretty soon the vehicles are going to be spun out and they're going to be upside down in the ditch because the road turns into glare ice and there's no traction. So if you put the liquid deicer on in the afternoon and you're trying to melt the snow off with a liquid deicer, as soon as the temperature drops to a freezing, to where the deicer freezes, now you got glare ice from end to end. So now if you don't have any sand on top of that, you have no traction. And it doesn't matter what kind of a driver you are, and if you've got V-bar change, you might be okay, but that's a pretty poor way to do maintenance on the highway. And we can't blame the accidents totally on the drivers. Yes, we have to have good tires. We have to use the defensive driving skills to keep our speeds down. But if you come on a steep graded highway and you're on a downgrade and you come into a situation where there's been some snow and it's freezing and you have no sand, the vehicles are going to slide off the road. They slide into each other, oncoming vehicles, and they have accidents. And it boils down to the fact about its organizational skills to begin with. You have to have enough equipment. You have to have the equipment prepared in the fall early. You have to have the calibrations done to make sure that the dispensing equipment is working. And you have to have enough shifts established to cover 24 hours. Now you might say, well, it doesn't snow 24 hours. That's okay, but you have to have people available. Now the thought is, well, we'll just pick them up if we need them. That doesn't work. Because if you don't have the job and you have the guy hired for the job, he can't live and buy groceries and look after his family with, well, we'll call you when we need you. It doesn't work. So if the guy is having trouble to provide food for his family, he'll get a job, or he can get the job steady, and he might move out of the entire area. So you lose the person to a coal mine or another operation where he can get paid for the work they do all the time. So if you can hire you and say, well, no, we're going to hire you and we'll call you when it snows. Well, if the guy doesn't have a steady job, he can't afford to live, he can't eat. He can't buy groceries and feed his family. So under the old system, we had guys on 3 shifts, and they were paid. And if there was snow, they were there to plow. And if he needed sand, there were guys to sand, they were there. If they need to have some salt put out, that was put out as well. But they were there. No, if it's a quiet time, there isn't much going on. They used to wash the equipment and clean it up, service it up, get it ready to go, repair the chains, go out and clean off the bridge decks, shovel off the sidewalks, clean off the road signs, and do all the maintenance activities that can be done when it's maybe a light snow condition. So I'm going to throw this out to you and have you listen, have you take a look at it. And right now, it's our responsibility as taxpayers because we don't even have any quality control people out there watching. Now, under the old system, at this point in time, there should have been sand piles starting to appear all over the place, stockpiled sand. So when later in the fall and the early winter, there would be sand stockpiled ready. Salt and sand mix, piled up in piles. About every 50 miles, there was a good supply pile, and it was there. So when the sanding was required, the material was there. So it just doesn't happen automatically. It's got to be done by a full planned operation. And if a person has the contract and doesn't have the understanding of what has to be done in prep, and you don't have a management system in place to monitor that, it won't happen. It doesn't happen automatically. Oh, we'll just call the guys out when we need them. Yeah, that's fine. But if they're not there to work, you won't have them. And if the sand is not stockpiled and ready, it won't be there when you need it. So you're either ready or not. And over the years, we've seen a very good operation being sold off. Merle Sproul was the highways engineer here, and he made darn sure that all the foremen were brought together in a group, and they were told, make sure you get your guys hired, get them trained, calibrate your equipment, get your snow plows all ready, make sure that the shoes are on and the new cutting edges are there, make sure the tire chains are all fixed up, and people are trained and ready to go. Then we can sit back and wait till it snows. And then we have to do the actual patrolling of the highway. You don't have to patrol it with a sand truck. You can patrol it with a foreman's half ton if you want. But if it's snowing, you might as well take a snowplow truck, a sand truck out there, and you got the truck underneath you, and you're patrolling at the same time. So we've lost a lot of ground. We've had what's happened. A lot of the older foremen have retired and taken all their knowledge with them. Some of the old highways managers and the engineers have retired and gone. So the only good thing that I can see, we do have those training films on YouTube. And you have a training film about the preparation of sand and also the snow plowing and sanding operations that was done under the ministry auspices. And those are out there. And the contractors are supposed to be watching those films before they actually bid on the contract. Now, there's always room for improvement, but you cannot change the what's happening over the years. If the snow is coming down and the temperature is right, it's going to form ice, and you're going to have glare black ice. And if you don't have sand out there to put on top of it, once the ice starts to form, it's going to become glare ice, and the vehicles are going to slide off the highway. And you can't blame it all on the highways drivers. Yes, we have to have good tires. Yes, we have to adjust our highway speeds to meet road conditions. But if it's glare ice, you're going to slide right off the highway. And ICBC should be taking a really close look at all the police reports about the accidents and find out if there's accidents being caused because there was no salt and sand on the highway, especially sand when you've got freezing rain or when you've got snow conditions that's now being compacted by vehicle tires and it's creating black ice on the highway. You must have sand on there for traction restorer. And there's no reason why the police can't have take the responsibility saying, look, if that road's not safe, we're not going to allow people to go out there to experiment and kill themselves on the road. We'll just go after contract and shut the road down. Don't let anybody travel. And when enough people are inconvenienced, something will happen. But the total responsibility lies with the RCMP and the policing operation and the highways maintenance operation to make sure that that bloody road's in good traveling condition. If it's not, shut it down. Get the contractor to go out there and don't let the cars back out there until it's safe operation again, until the traction is there back on the road surface. So there's room for improvement, and the way I see it now, they're waiting too late to hire people. You have to hire the people earlier, be ready by October the 1st. And the sand's got to be stockpiled and ready. The stockpile should be growing right now. So the stockpile should be increasing. So as you're driving down the road, you should find stockpiles being increasing as you drive. And as a taxpayer, it's your money. Now, if you're too docile and don't say anything, it's going to get worse. And the thing about getting worse is the fact that we're going to experience deaths. And if you compare the price of a load of sand, say a couple of $3,000, how much is a human life worth? Are you prepared to let your wife or your husband or somebody in your family be killed on a really bad icy road condition because somebody wanted to save a few dollars? Now, when you're bidding on road systems under bid, if they're bidding too low, that's not the taxpayer's fault. You might say, well, it's cheaper for the taxpayer. Well, no, because if you have a bunch of major accidents and ICBC costs go up through the ceiling, the result of accidents and death is increased costs. And increased costs can be in the insurance system, and also the death, vehicle damage, inconvenience that goes along with poor road condition. So if we don't say anything, it's our fault. We're allowing the system to put the money in the bank. Now, whether or not the money goes into the contractor's pocket, or whether they just do it cheaper, and we have a poor product. So as a taxpayer and a road user, if we don't say anything, it's not going to get any better. So it's our responsibility to speak up. And I worked at that for 35 years, we had every type of sanding equipment and salt application equipment and mixing equipment that you could name. But unfortunately, when Bill Vandertam was in it, they talked him into selling all the equipment off. Now the contractor has to have the right amount of equipment to do the job. But if we're in a learning process now, if you're starting out with the wrong amount, you have to write a right amount of equipment, and you have to have the right amount of operators for it, and you have to have the brain and the planning, advanced planning, to have the equipment and the manpower in place, and the stockpiling and the preparation of sand and salt mix product has to be there. We have to have it to be ready for winter. And if we don't have it ready for winter, we're going to experience death and carnage on the highway. That's not something I want to see, and I'm sure you don't either. So I'm asking you to throw a little thought at that and start talking to your highways manager and your local contractor and saying, hey, what are we doing? Is that sand being prepared so it'll be there in a month or so when we need it? Or are you guys just sitting back on your hands and hoping to hell that God's going to prepare it for it? He's not going to do it. He gives us the snow, and he gives us the freezing rain and stuff like that. But the sand preparation and the working and the plowing and sanding and the manpower thing, that is our responsibility. Every taxpayer that pays for it has a responsibility to make sure that he's getting his money's worth. So give it a little bit of thought and talk to a few people and decide what you want for this winter. Do you want to see some bloodshed on the highway system? We're talking about preventable accidents. By having sand out there, snow plowing and sanding, salting, done properly, and be ready and prepared and deal with the situation when the weather is required, when the road condition requires continuous operation, sanding, plowing, and sanding when it's real slippery. Have yourself a great evening.